welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I want to talk about when life gives us more than we can handle and finding the strength in hard moments. So before I do, I wanted to tell you that, all of the talking I've been doing about going on voiceover and using voiceover on my Mac. Well, I finally got into my class. I don't know if I told you guys this, but I got into my class for voiceover that I've been on the waiting list for like 6 months. And I've been taking the class, and guess who's been playing around on voiceover? This girl. That's who. And I figured out something that I have been having a challenge with since this whole voiceover endeavor started. So I made some progress today, and I'm pretty proud of that. So I am currently using voiceover on my phone, and I am not using voiceover right now on my computer, but my goal is to start recording using voiceover. So that'll be weird because I won't be looking at the computer, but the computer will be recording me. So, we're just going to see what happens. That's my goal. And I still have another month and a half of class. So, it'll happen. Eventually, you people have been listening to this for over a year, and I've been yapping about this, but it's going to happen eventually. So I'm pretty proud of myself for not giving up, and it's just another step. It's another step in the acceptance that this is me, this is my disability. And one thing that I have not gotten used to saying, and this happened twice today, somebody asked me, "Do you work from home?" And then another person asked, yeah, that was the question by two different people, two different situations, two different places. I was at the nail salon, and my nail person asked me if I work from home. And then I was just walking Autumn tonight, and one of the dog owners that I've talked about on this podcast asked me if I work from home. And I don't know how to respond, because when I say, oh, I don't work, it makes me feel like I'm lazy or something, like I'm just sponging off of my husband or something like that. I guess I could try saying, no, I'm retired, but that's probably going to have people be like, you're pretty young to be retired. Or I could say I'm medically retired. Yes, I know it's nobody's business, but it's nice to find like an answer to that question, because that right now I feel uncomfortable, and that's not fair to me. I shouldn't be uncomfortable when somebody asks me, if I work from home. Like, I want to have a response to that doesn't make me feel negatively. I should find a way I should find a way to answer it in a way that makes me feel like I'm celebrating myself. So it's interesting, because I feel those of you who are in sobriety are probably very familiar with the first time you had to answer the question, do you want to drink? And you're like, those of us in recovery usually come up with some kind of planned answer. Like either I don't drink, and you just leave it at that and you don't give a crap what other people think. Or one of the things that I always say is, no, I don't drink anymore because I like drinking way too much. That's what I usually say, because it usually makes me smile. And that's what it's all about, making me smile. And I also don't want people to ask me again and again. So that's where I'm at with this disability, being on disability. Like, I don't want to say, if somebody says, do you work from home? I don't want to say, oh no, I'm on disability. because then it's a whole new direction that I don't want to get into because there we're talking about, well, you don't look like you're disabled, and that's just another nightmare. So anyway, thanks for letting me talk about that because I'm not quite sure how I'm going to navigate that, but it's interesting to have had that twice today. And one time, the first person I said, "Oh, I don't work," and that was the end of it. And then the guy, the dog owner, I said, "I don't work anymore." And he kind of looked at, but he knows that I had a stroke and knows that I was having some problems. So whatever, I wish I could say, I don't care what anybody thinks, but it's also I want to feel comfortable. And that's really, I think, why I'm talking about it, because I don't feel comfortable yet knowing how to answer that. So there you have it. So now we're going to talk about, yeah, thanks, truly. Thank you for letting me talk about these types of things. I want to talk about the topic in my morning meeting was about when, so here's the thing that people say in the program. I think I even heard this before I got into my sobriety program, and that is quote unquote, God will never give you more than you can handle. And I have always been like, I don't know that God is like handing stuff out. I don't know that he's just handing out, okay, she can handle this. Yeah, let's give her that. I don't picture that that's not how my higher power is working in my life. So we read this story about this guy said, the author of the story, I think it was in the big book. What's today? Sunday? It was in Spiritual Awakenings. And the author said that he believes that God gave him more than he can handle. He said, there's so many times in my life that I couldn't handle what I was given. And so I'm listening to this whole story. And in the end, I was the first person to share. And I said, are we allowed to just disagree with the story? Because I disagree with this story. The author talks about saying that, well, there's so many times in his life that he's been given more than he can handle. And I'm thinking, well, he obviously handled it because he's still around to write the story. So I just don't agree with the story. I think it's really the definition of handling something. What does that look like for each of us? Um, and I don't know, it reminds me of an interview with a president where they said, well, it depends on what your definition of is. I think it was Clinton. I don't know. Anyway, it depends on what your definition of handle is. Like for me, handling it means that I am taking an action. I am walking into it. So me not being able to handle something means that I never turn towards it. I never take an action on it. I am afraid of it. I turn from it. I walk away from it. So if that's my different definition of handling something, then for a long time, I I would say by that definition that I could not handle my drinking, right? And I wasn't going to look at it. I wasn't going to do anything about it. Or I couldn't handle the the pain in my head post stroke. Like I couldn't, you know what I mean? I think that there's a lot of situations in our life that we feel like we come to a crossroads. where something feels like it's too much to bear. And I have felt like that a couple times, where something felt like it was too much to bear. But I'm still here and I handled it. Um, Sometimes handling it, quote unquote, is is just getting up another day, putting our feet on the floor. That's handling it to me. Whether it's the fact that I'm an alcoholic, whether it's the fact that I can't do a lot of things that I used to be able to do because of my vision and my head pain. I'm getting up every morning, and that means I'm handling it. I'm approaching these things in a more assertive way. Just because I'm doing a podcast, I go to my AA meetings every morning. Um, I'm constant, I'm last night and this morning I'll show you I have this big, oh, you can't see it. I have on a virtual background today. Oh, look, I got rid of my whole face. I have all this paperwork. This is my voiceover class, and I am handling it. I'm handling my disability. I I surprised myself that I walked away from my job. I talked about so many times over the past year how lost I have been. And I'm going to talk about it again, over the coming years. And and yet I'm still handling it because I'm still getting up and showing up for myself every day. And the weight of my challenges, they feel like they're too heavy, but yet I still get up. And that to me is handling it. Um, there's a woman in my network of people who has had a lot of tragedy in her life over the past year. And she shares with me that she feels very lost. She feels um, like she knows that this is her path, but she doesn't understand it. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what action to take. And I think that is really my point, is that we are handling things when we're just showing up for our own lives. Um, when we are able to see that help is always there when things get hard. If we can see that, even a tiny little glimpse of it, we're handling it. Um, Handling it is not necessarily, for me, my perspective on it, handling it is not necessarily buckling up and putting on your boxing gloves. For me, handling it is opening the blinds in the morning. It's taking the covers off and putting your feet on the ground. And some days, and I imagine this friend of mine, I know, I know, I don't know her pain because I've never dealt with what she's dealing with. But what I do know is that when I don't want to open my eyes and I don't want to face the day, that as soon as I sit up, I feel brave. When my alarm goes off, And I sometimes I just curl my legs up and I'm like in a fetal position, but like on my back. I do it because I'm stretching my lower back, but I curl up like in a fetal position on my back and I throw the covers over my head and I'm just like this little ball on my bed. And it's at that moment where the most important things happen in my whole day. Um, when I think, I don't wanna, but you have to. When I think, but this is reality. And I again respond, it doesn't matter. I don't want to get up, but you have to get up. And I turn off my wanter. That's the most important thing that happens for me during the day is when I first get up, turning off my wanter and doing things anyway. I can't avoid the struggle. It's what I do next that matters. It's how I respond to myself that makes all the difference. Um, in the beginning of sobriety, the thought of not drinking was impossible. It wasn't terrifying, it was impossible. I just did not see how I could possibly live without drinking. Um, those of you who don't have a problem with drinking won't understand that. But I truly did not believe that a sober me could exist on this planet. Drinking was bigger than me. Um, I felt like I couldn't handle not drinking. And what I heard in the program was live one day at a time. Just keep coming back. Live one moment at a time sometimes. And so that's what I did. And by keeping that mindset and doing the I'm okay right now, I'm okay right now, I'm okay right now mindset, I was handling it. And that brings me back to that 5K that I kept doing when I had a goal of having a 5K. And I just was training myself. And I got to the point where like every step was such a huge lift. And I thought a 5K was more than what I could handle. I thought that that was too much for me. That's not something I could ever do, you know? But then I thought, this is just like sobriety. And it's just, if I can live one day at a time, if I can live one moment at a time, then why can't I live one step at a time? Why can't I run this 5K one step at a time? So that's what I did. And I started when I'm running, I'm taking a step and a step and a step. And I'm like, I literally was saying, not out loud because I couldn't breathe, but I was saying to myself, I'm okay right now. I'm okay right now. I'm okay right now. And as I just echoed that in my head, I was still running and I was still okay. And I got to that finish line that I needed to get to, and that my goal was. And that is handling it. Handling it is not forward thinking to the end result for me. Handling it is doing the next right thing. What is the next thing that I do when I am struggling? That's what matters. That's what is handling it for me. Um, I heard somebody say something today. I don't know if it was somebody said it or it was in the story, but it was something about how big and heavy our thoughts are when they're in our head. But when we share those with another person, the words are weightless and they just float away. Um, I thought that was beautiful. I mean, I don't know what the person said, but that is what that image I created in my mind was. The more I talk about these heavy thoughts, the more they turn into weightless words that just float away. And it's like I just feel so much lighter when I talk to other people. So I'm very much consumed with caring about my friend and wishing there's something I could do. You know, I can't change what has happened in her life. The only thing I can do is what I'm doing here, is show up um, and talk about my experiences. That's it. Um, Verbalizing our emotions reduces the intensity of the emotions. Like when we put our thoughts into words, we give our thoughts less power. If I bottle up, which is what I did for so freaking long, if I bottle up my fears, my anger, my sadness, I mean, it, I could in an instant think about the extreme sadness that I felt in in my late stages of alcoholism. Um, it feels if I allow myself to go there, um, it could consume me. It scares the living shit out of me, honestly, to think the thoughts that I thought back then. I do everything in my power to not go there. The problem is when I know somebody else is suffering, I'm afraid that that's where they are. I'm afraid that my friend is feeling the extreme pain that I felt. And I don't want to ever feel that way again. And I don't want anybody I love or anybody to feel that way because they don't have to. I didn't have to feel that way. I had no idea that the pain that was inside of me, that there was a solution. Um, the pain was all consuming. It was crushing. And I I don't even know how I figured out that there was a solution. I don't even remember all the seeds that were planted in me. You know, I remember my father-in-law bringing me to AA with my brother-in-law. I shared about that with you all. Um, you know, I remember looking online for people who have my problem, you know, people who can't stop drinking. I wasn't around anybody who could help me. I didn't know what to do. And so by doing this podcast, I'm able to use my voice to share so that anybody who might feel that way might run across this and know that they're not the only one who's ever felt that way, and that, oh, if she's felt that way, if she has felt the way that I feel right now and she is flourishing right now, then I know I can do it. I know that there's a solution and things are going to get better. I can't see it right now, but things are going to get better, period. That's not a question. It is a fact that things are going to get better. Um, Somebody else said this morning, the years teach what the days don't know. And I thought that was brilliant too. I've never heard that before. It's probably something all of you have heard, but I hadn't heard that before. The years teach what the days don't know. And that just resonated so true for me when I heard that. I don't know until I start getting better. I don't know if what I'm doing is making me better until I start feeling better. And one thing I know for certain, though, is that I only ever start feeling better if I'm not alone, if I share those heavy thoughts and put them into weightless words and hand them over to whoever is willing to hold on to them for me or set them free for me. You know, I don't believe that what I've gone through and am rising above makes me any stronger than the next woman. I am not some kind of superwoman or anything. I just show up. I just have this voice that says, that responds to, I don't wanna, you know? When the voice in me says, I don't wanna, the other voice responds. I got voices in my head. The other voice responds and says, you're gonna do it anyway. There is no alternative. It's not a question. That's just what's gonna happen. And that's what I've been doing, and it seems to keep working for me. For me, it really, 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 really comes down to turning off my wanter. If I turn off my wanter, then I seem to go in the right direction. It's like Seinfeld, you do the opposite. It's not always the opposite, though. Sometimes, as time goes on, I've talked about this before, as time goes on, my wanter starts to align with the next right thing. And I start wanting to do the next right thing. And that has taken a lot of practice. Um, so I think my message today is if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you feel like there's something or many things that are too heavy for you or too much for you to handle, um, know that you don't have to handle them alone. Um, Share it with another person. You're still here, which means you're already handling it. You know, the feeling of being overwhelmed is not a sign of weakness. It's just simply a sign of being a caring human being. It's what you do with that feeling of overwhelm, overwhelmedness, overwhelming feeling of being overwhelmed. It's what you do with it that defines the direction of your path, your trajectory. So pick up the phone and call somebody. Send me an email, for God's sakes, like just reach out to somebody. That is doing something, that is handling it. And when you wake up in the morning and you have that little voice inside your head like me that says, I don't wanna, you just sit up anyway. It doesn't matter if you want to or not, you just do it. It's kind of like when my kids would say, I don't want to eat these peas. And I say, you don't have to want to, you just have to eat them. That's my life. I don't have to want to do some of these things. I just have to do it. And then over time, they say, I think you feed something 12 times to a kid and then they start to like them. Same thing. I don't have to want to do it, but if I do it like 12 times, then I'm going to want to. So that's my lesson for today. Thanks for listening. That was a fun one. Take care, and I will talk to you tomorrow.